Hello, everyone. I'm still posting on social media. It takes me forever. Oh, one of these days. I think that's my New Year's resolution is to make our countdown a minute long. I can't see. I'm trying to share it on Facebook. It's not coming up on Facebook. What the hell? Are we not live on Facebook? There we are. Okay, give me a second, guys. I'm a little malfunctioned right here. But it is almost the end of the year, so I know we're all dragging this week. We're probably wondering what day it is. Well, I'll let you know if you're watching us live. It is Wednesday, December 29th. So I know we're all full of cheese. We're full of, cookies. We're full of alcohol. We have been on the cookie, cheese, and alcohol diet for a week, probably.
So I like that diet.
It's a great diet. I had cheese for dinner, to be honest, because I didn't have time to have anything else. But guess what I always have in my house? Cheese and crackers, people. And that is never a bad meal. But I'm sure you guys are wondering what day it is. But as I said, it is Wednesday, December 29th. If you are catching us live, if you're catching us on demand, I can't tell you what day it is. So I apologize for that. But as always, welcome to the Real Football Fans of New Jersey. I am Caitlin. This is Katie, and we are so excited to come to you one last time before the end of the year. We are ringing in the new year this coming Friday, December 31st at midnight, and we will go into 2022. And we are going into 2022 with you guys. So don't worry, the Real Football Fans of New Jersey is going to next year with you guys. We wouldn't want to have it any other way. So why don't we go ahead and get into it? I must say real quick, though, I am drinking wine tonight from it's not a wine subscription, but it's one of those like wine testing things you get. I got it as a gift. And if you guys are still looking to give gifts out there, it's called Sugar Wish is the company. And a lot of the stuff that they give is like coffee, tea, cookies, like candy, stuff like that. They do have a wine section, and they send you 3 little what is this thing called? Like a
test tube?
Like a test tube, a vessel. I was going to call it a vessel as I touch it inappropriately. I wasn't trying to do that. They send it to you in like little vessels like this. This is about the pour. I had like a sip or two, so don't worry. It's not that baby of a pour. I got the hip Spanish wine one. So this is the red I'm drinking. I'm going to open up the white while we're on the show too, probably. But listen, great gift. I'm pumped about it. So we're wine lovers. If you guys have a wine lover in your life, I think you should definitely send it. This is not an ad. I just love talking about really good products that Katie and I both love. So definitely shout out to Sugar Wish and sending wine to the people you love. We definitely love to see that for sure.
Always an excellent gift to receive when all else fails.
Just send the wine, give the wine, all the wine. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So we asked you guys 3 poll questions tonight, and I actually have 2 special ones for you. So total of 5, but we'll go into the 3 that we asked you guys on Instagram and Twitter. We'll go into the answers here. Just quick disclaimer, if you are watching us, I already see a ton of people watching us on Twitter live. Thank you. If you want to engage with us, you're going to have to go over to YouTube or Facebook, though. But we do love the viewership. We love the engagement. So let's go ahead and get into it. So our first poll question of the night is, should the Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor, be a top 3 fantasy running back next season? 97% of you said yes. Katie, where do you fall in that 97%? You're not that outliner. You're not that outliner.
Jonathan Taylor fan. This is a yes for me. I think maybe I didn't expect such an overwhelming response of yes. Like this was almost unanimous. It almost makes me feel like we should have pulled the people and asked, should he be number 1 overall as a running back? Because certainly I think people are going to be a little bit wary next year about Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
He is very injury prone. Obviously, Derrick Henry is going to be coming off of an injury. It's going to be interesting to see where Jonathan Taylor lands. But for sure, a top 3 running back, a first-round fantasy pick, could be the number 1 running back off the board. We'll see.
I'll be eyeing him up next year. Don't you worry. As always, I'll be looking for Derrick Henry, but I will definitely be eyeing up Jonathan Taylor if he is on the list. That being said, I went with yes as well. He's done phenomenal things this season. So more than I don't know what the right word is right now, but it's very deserved. Well deserved on his part if it does happen next season.
Absolutely no sophomore slump there. One of the best sophomore seasons that we've seen in a while from a player.
Absolutely. Alrighty, the second question. Is Trevor Lawrence a good quarterback on a bad team or just not a good NFL quarterback? So definitely a question that might spark a little bit of a controversy.
I think it's a good debate to have with people.
It is, and I think you guys are gonna get lucky with a little bit of a friendly debate here tonight. 74% of you said good quarterback on a bad team. Katie, what was your response to this?
Good quarterback on a bad team. And I'm not necessarily saying that I don't know whether Trevor Lawrence is a good or bad NFL quarterback right now. But I think more so I picked that because that's a question mark. And really that's a question mark for most rookie quarterbacks. I think the problem with Trevor Lawrence was the hype and the number 1 overall pick and people expected more. But it's like Peyton Manning, look what he did his rookie season. He still holds the record for most interceptions. And so he definitely is on a bad team. Not only that, I think he had horrible coaching this year from Urban Meyer. We look at a guy like Jared Goff when he was the number 1 overall pick and he was with Jeff Fisher and the Rams. Things did not look good. People were like, oh my God, he's going to be like the biggest bust of all time. And then of course, Sean McVay comes in and now we see why he was the number 1 pick. So I feel like that could be a similar thing with Trevor Lawrence. It's too early to say that he's a bad NFL quarterback. Lord knows I wouldn't want people to judge Daniel Jones off of his first season and immediately label him. I just think it's the fact that Trevor Lawrence was that number 1 overall pick that people are going to be ultra critical of him. It's too early to determine what his fate is as an NFL quarterback.
So let's have a little bit of a friendly debate here because I actually voted for not a good NFL quarterback. So a little bit of an asterisk here. I would have loved a third option of too early to tell because that would have been my option. But I did kind of look at it and I was like, you know what? Let me probably pick the less popular opinion. And as we polled our audience, we had a ton of people vote across Instagram and Twitter. And the less obviously option was what I had picked of not a good NFL quarterback. And here's why I'm going to say it. And I don't need you Jacksonville, Duval fans coming at me. I don't need Clemson's fans coming at me and, coming at my neck. I'm just basically going to say the Jacksonville Jaguars have been a dumpster fire this season. You're not a good team. You have your head coach fired for, basically being a complete idiot, having no idea what he's doing, making really poor off-field decisions, losing the locker room, yelling at coaches, yelling at players, kicking players, everything that you could have done. So Jacksonville is being spoken about in the media every single day for being a really shitty team and having really shitty coaching. If you are a good quarterback and you are making good plays and you are the first pick overall, your name is being mentioned in that narrative. Trevor Lawrence is nowhere to be found on the map. I have heard his name mentioned, I think, once this season.
I think we said it last episode that you almost forget Trevor Lawrence is even out there playing because you haven't heard anything about it.
Yep. And it was my argument last week, and I think it's going to carry over into this week. If your team is being mentioned this much and there's a narrative around there, if you're a half decent quarterback in the NFL, you're being mentioned at least 10% of the time. He's not even being mentioned 2% of the time when the Jacksonville Jaguars are being brought up. So for that reason, and it is a little bit of a tough one, hard to chew for some people, I'm just going to go ahead there and saying that what he was able to do at Clemson is not transferring over to the NFL. I need to see big plays from him. I need to see leadership from him. I'm not even seeing that at this point. So that's my spiel. I know it might be hard for some people to take, but it is an opinion out there. And listen, I could be on, what is it? There's a Twitter account there and it's Hot Takes Exposed. And it's people who had it's called, I think, Cold Takes. So really bad takes. So listen, if I'm on really bad takes next year, I'll own up to it. But this is how I feel right now. So
it's going to be, listen, year 2 with Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars, most likely probably getting the number 1 pick, if not number 1, number 2, and certainly getting a new head coach. This is going to be a completely different outlook for Trevor Lawrence next year. So it's going to be really interesting to watch and see how it, all shakes out.
Absolutely. So let's move into the housewives world, and probably another controversial question, but is Real Housewives of New Jersey the best housewives franchise? And hey, maybe we're a little bit biased because we're the real football fans of New Jersey and we're based out of the New Jersey, New York area, but 90% of you told us that yes, they are the best franchise. I know I obviously said yes. What did you say?
I said yes as well.
Yeah.
And like, it's more so like the sentence needs to almost more so be like, is it the best franchise right now? So
there definitely needs to be
New Jersey, the last 2-3 seasons has really been like holding down that number one spot. I feel like, I still think overall in the grand scheme of things, that would be hard for me to look at New Jersey versus New York. But right now, New Jersey is carrying the Housewives franchise. It feels like they're the only franchise that is not struggling to, with their cast members and their ratings and what do we do to get this and get that going. Right. They're good. It's like, don't touch it. Like, it's perfect.
Well, it was like that stat that we brought up, I think a couple episodes ago or maybe I saw it and didn't mention. I think maybe we spoke about it. It was they're the only franchise in 3 seasons, I think, to bring back the same cast. No, I think there's going to be some Friends.
I think this upcoming one is 3.
Yeah, so that I saw that floating around the internet the other day that they are a very stable franchise to agree. So we did have a write it on Instagram that Atlanta is a very good franchise and they're the best one right now. And I understand that they are an OG franchise that they're producing very, very good episodes now. But you did just lose Cynthia Bailey and Nene Leakes. So, I think, and you lost Portia too. You lost a lot of people. So while it is a great franchise and they might be still like hitting out and like knocking it out of the park, getting great episodes, you're still losing people. So you need to understand that, like, that's where we're coming from with New Jersey. So very stable and still delivering phenomenal content. So
absolutely.
So those were the questions that we asked everyone. I did quickly poll our Twitter audience, though, because I know everyone's going crazy because it is the college football playoffs start on Friday, as you can see if you did not know with my attire. So I just wanted to see, what our Twitter following was thinking about. We got a ton of votes, so thank you guys, as always, for voting. So when it comes to Georgia and Michigan on Friday, 58% of people went with Michigan over Georgia. So I like to see that. I would like to potentially see another Alabama-Georgia showdown. I was happy about the first showdown, obviously, but I thought it'd be a little bit of a better game. Georgia is a phenomenal football team, so I don't really know what happened there, but we'll see about that. But there is a lot of chatter out there that Michigan is going to upset them. So I would I like when things are shaken up, not with my team, but I'd like to see some of that.
As an Alabama fan, let me ask you, as an Alabama fan, what teams, like, you might want to see another rematch with Georgia because it makes for good television, obviously, 2 SEC opponents. But what team scares you more?
I guess I would have to say Michigan because we haven't played them yet.
It's the unknown. Like, you can play and beat Georgia because you've done it before. Okay.
Yeah, but that also kind of scares me too. Like, what was in the water that day?
And it's hard to beat a really great team twice.
Right. Absolutely. So that kind of scares me too. So I think either person we get, we still have to win. If we get they get so, and I'm actually don't have that attitude towards Friday. Like, I'm not walking into it as a win. Like, I'm really not. So I've seen some and again, I don't really understand the betting world, but I've seen some things in regards to the game and it's really all in favor of Alabama. So, but I'm going into it very, very strict. But what our Twitter audience told us is 70% thinks Alabama is going to win that game over Cincinnati. So
I'm surprised it's not higher, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But hey, we'll see what it is.
I hope that game. I think the Michigan Georgia game is going to be a great matchup. I do too. Kudos to a program like Cincinnati that normally does not find themselves in this kind of position in the football world. I just hope that game against Alabama is a good football game.
I agree.
I hope, because I have no horse in the race. I don't in college football at all. I hope for two really good games, Michigan and Georgia and Cincinnati and Alabama. I hope it makes for good television.
Absolutely.
Because I don't watch college football, and if I do, it's usually these games. Then I will tune in.
Yeah. So we will see. But yeah, those were our poll questions tonight. Thank you guys, as always, for participating. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter right now. So if you have any commentary on the polls, if you have any questions for us, commentary on the show, go ahead and start engaging with us. Before we get into the rest of our show, we obviously would be remiss if we did not mention the very, very unfortunate and very sad passing of, literally the GOAT of the NFL, in my opinion, John Madden. He passed away yesterday morning at the age of 85. Right now, we are hearing that it was an unexpected passing. There isn't much around it, but it was just reported. It was reported last night around, I guess, like 7 or 8 o'clock that it happened yesterday morning. I know I had texted Katie right away. And as always, Katie and I are in lockstep. She had just heard about it at the same exact time, posting it to our page. And we were just talking about, how obviously the documentary was released recently. So a lot of talk around him and things like that, but just how recently just talking about him to our families and just having discussions with him around with other people, just kind of how surreal it was to just open your phone and to see news like this. He calling him like the GOAT of the NFL is like such a, understatement in my opinion. Like you think about football, you think about the NFL, like you think about John Madden, like everyone watching, listening to our show, like what is your favorite football game to play? Madden. Who do you think that's named after? John Madden. That just shows like the iconicness behind him and everything that he gave to this league. And just
saying on ESPN today, like if there's a Mount Rushmore for the NFL, I mean, that's really hard to pick 4 faces, right? But like John Madden is one of them.
Absolutely. And, he could be all 4 faces if you really wanted to put it there. It's one of those news stories where you do open Twitter, you do open Instagram, and you are stopped in your tracks. It's one of those days that you don't think is going to come because he is a person that is just is strict to the sport, and you're always going to see his face. You're always going to hear a story about him, but then this happened. So it's very similar. It's not similar to Kobe Bryant, but I think about the same thing where it's, you're just always going to assume that person's there because they're so tied to the sport. They're so tied to their communities and people around them. So I, again, was definitely just stopped, like kind of just like looking at your phone and just completely jaw dropped. And it's very heartbreaking. And it's one of those things that definitely took my breath away in not the best ways, had chills, and I'm still obviously thinking about it to this moment. But I just pray for his family and thank him openly for making the NFL what it is and making, the NFL is a huge part of my life and I love football. And if he's a huge part of that, that clearly had something to do with it. So I just have a lot of gratitude and thanks towards him as a person.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into our big stories of the week in football. We are going to dive right into week 16. A lot of different crazy things happening, a lot of playoff clinching scenarios. This is crunch time, people. So
a lot of math going on at this time in the season. A lot of math
going on. I know the NFC have locked up some spots more so than the AFC. The AFC is a much tighter, closer race. A lot of things can flip flop over the next 2 regular season games. But week 16, we had Tennessee kicker Randy Bullock. He kicked a game-winning 44-yard field goal to help beat San Francisco 20-17. I did get that game incorrect, but I want to say that I'm still on a super hot streak. I was 13 out of 16 on my games this past week. This was one of them that I will admit I got wrong. But
I don't think I did well this week.
That was a tough one. That was a close game. I really thought San Fran should have had it, but it was tough. Green Bay quarterback Aaron Rodgers, big milestone here. He surpassed Brett Favre for the most passing touchdowns in Green Bay history, 442. That's insane. During their 24-22 win over Cleveland.
Just like still young too. Like Rodgers definitely has like.
I mean, yeah, he's going to be like Brady. I think he's going to play unless he's just. Yeah. Although he might just get fed up with everything, like
that's true.
Go off into the sunset and be like, "I'm done with you guys."
He could be like Brett Favre though, and leave him back.
He has the ability and he has the capability to play the way Brady is doing right now. He can do it if he wants to. Another huge record, amazing accomplishment. Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson, he passed Mr. Odell Beckham Jr. when he did this for the Giants in his first 2 seasons. He now has the most receiving yards in the first 2 seasons in NFL history. Justin Jefferson has 2,755. He is definitely one of the hottest wide receivers in the league. Huge weapon for Minnesota. And they're going to need him, by the way, because breaking news today, Adam Thielen out the rest of the way. So Minnesota will rely on him going forward as they still pursue a playoff spot. Tampa Bay, they clinched the NFC South for the first time since 2007, a stat that might surprise people. They did not win their division last year, despite being Super Bowl champions. They had a nice 32-6 win over the Carolina Panthers. Mr. Joe Burrow, he was the MVP of this past week. He threw for 525 yards and 4 touchdowns in a critical, very impressive 41-21 win over their division rival, the Baltimore Ravens.
Like that's how you go out and beat a division rival when it's playoff crunch time, and you go and get ahead in your division. Like that's how you do it.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I think I heard on TV it was first time since 2009. Where Cincinnati swept both Baltimore and Pittsburgh in the regular season. That's a huge accomplishment. And division, especially because that division is still up for grabs. If it becomes a tie-breaking scenario and they look at your divisional record, advantage is going to go to Cincinnati on that one. So
absolutely. So good. Listen, and that's how you do it. Like I said, that's how you beat a division opponent. So.
Some of these young quarterbacks, honestly, like I was saying it the other day, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, like these are like really amazing young franchise quarterbacks that these teams have locked in. Kansas City, they clinched the AFC West for the 6th straight season with a 36-10 win over the Steelers. Another huge quarterback performance. My fantasy quarterback, so I wasn't playing for anything. It came too little too late. But Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott, he threw for 330 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 56-14 blowout over Washington. Defense played huge as well. I know that sounds like a huge offensive outing, but defense had a couple picks. I think they had a pick 6. Like it was just a full-blown both sides of the ball blowout.
I must say it made me feel a little less better, or excuse me, a little less worse about myself once that game.
Dallas, they're firing on all cylinders right now. They clinched the NFC East with Las Vegas's win over Miami, actually. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Las Vegas's win. Now I'm going into Miami. Miami now won 7 straight games with a 20-3 win over the New Orleans Saints. They had former Notre Dame quarterback Ian Book filling in at quarterback. So that was a game, hands down, they should have won, and they did. And then also on the NFC side, we have the Rams and the Arizona Cardinals, both coming from the NFC West. They have clinched playoff spots. So the NFC it's not too much left there. So you got to win your division or lock in a wild card spot.
Which is interesting because I feel like probably the first half of the season, the AFC was moving and grooving, and we saw a lot of top teams, things like that. And the NFC kind of had some question marks. And now here we are, last 2 weeks of the season. The NFC has a bunch of clinched teams, and we have a pretty good look at the picture, the playoff picture for that area.
You know what makes me laugh though? And you said it last episode, we got to look back at the receipts and see the records and who the division winners were. My bold prediction at the very beginning of the season was that all 4 teams on the NFC West were going to make the playoffs. It's looking like the Rams, Arizona, and probably the San Francisco 49ers are going to be making it. What's funny about that is the only team not to make is the Seattle Seahawks. That was the team I picked to win the division.
I know.
And they're the ones being left out. So honestly, like if Seattle can get their shit together, I'll say it again next year. All 4 teams in that division are.
Yeah. I don't know. That is wild. Like the most wild stat with that too is it's only the second time since they drafted Russell Wilson that they're not going to the playoffs. So they are a powerhouse of a team. So not seeing them in the postseason this year is going to be very, very weird.
Right. And they're not going to be missing it with 8 or 9 wins. You know, this is a bad year for them. And it's something that you and I know, didn't see coming.
No. A lot happened in week 16.
Yeah, a lot. And it's going to be even, I think next week when we, report on week 17, it's going to be a whole bunch of clinching scenarios and shakeups and everything like that. So.
Yeah. Well, the Giants are now eliminated from the playoffs, which I don't know how it freaking took this long. So as soon as that tweet goes out where it's like eliminated, I just like quote tweeted it. And I was like, finally, like just when was this going to happen? Just like tell us, like
out of our misery.
Stop letting me wake up every Sunday with hope that there's still a chance. It's like from Dumb and Dumber. So you say there's a chance. There was a friggin' chance until Sunday, but we let it go and that's it. And now we move forward. I have Alabama on Friday. I hopefully have Alabama in the championship, and that's it. And we just root for good playoff games and a good Super Bowl. So that's where we are right now. So maybe it's a little bit of a less stressful life moving forward. But
let's say this, and good like NFL playoffs and everything like that. And let's hope that Dallas and looks like maybe Philly could squeak in. And if they do, let's
hope they lose.
That doesn't progress any further than first week of the playoffs. And then we're good to go.
Yeah, screw that. Just get them, let Dallas choke again. And if Philly makes it, whoever, just stomp them out. That's what we need you guys to do. So Katie and I will have new fan bases come the first week of the playoffs. So you'll see that for sure. Alrighty, so as we move into week 17, as always, we will give you our picks for the week, and we will also give you our lock and our upset. We have a jam-packed Sunday, people. You have no Thursday night or Saturday football this week. We'll remind you later in the show about that. But you got a jam-packed Sunday, people, and a Monday night game. So we'll go ahead, give you our picks plus our lock and our upset. And for fun, I know we polled you guys on the college football. Maybe I'll give you guys my picks for the college football playoffs on Friday. But let's start with the NFL. Katie, why don't you go ahead and get us started? As always, I will struggle to follow along on my list.
Okay, so in week 17, I am going with Philly, the Rams, Tampa Bay, Tennessee, New England, Indy, Kansas City, Chicago, Buffalo, San Fran, the Chargers, the Panthers, the Seahawks, Dallas, Green Bay, and Cleveland. My lock is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the New York Jets. My upset is going to be the Carolina Panthers over the New Orleans Saints.
All right. I think we have 5 different. So correct me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
This was a tough week.
It was. And again, a lot of, implications this week. So that could,
this is where we're going to get all those like division games. So,
or like if you make the playoffs, like one person has to win by 10 and this person's got to lose and all that stuff. We're getting into that nitty gritty part of the season. So you just hope that your team locks it up and doesn't have to worry about that crazy nonsense. But a lot of teams have to. So, to start off Sunday's matchups, I am going with Buffalo, Chicago, Cincinnati, Miami, the Colts, the Patriots, Tampa Bay, Philly, the Rams, the Chargers, San Francisco, Dallas, New Orleans, Detroit, Green Bay, and to wrap it up on Monday, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
It's 5? My lock is the same as yours, Tampa Bay over the New York Jets. And I technically have two upsets. The one major one, I guess, is Detroit over Seattle, because Detroit is still...
I almost picked that as my upset, by the way.
Detroit is still very much only has 2 wins.
That's an upset. That counts as an upset.
But I guess my more intriguing upset, and it's technically an upset even though they're first in their division, is the Cincinnati Bengals over the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's an upset technically.
No, it's an upset. Yeah.
They're both first in the division.
I think it's going to be a great game.
So I'm
looking forward to that one because who knows how things are going to like line up in the playoffs. You never know. That could be a potential playoff game. So I'm very, very interested to see that one.
Very much so. Same Z's. And for college football, I am going to pick Georgia and Alabama. So we are going to see a rematch of the Iron Bowl in the college football championship. So those are my picks there. Katie, I don't know if you want to say your picks, but...
As somebody who doesn't really watch college football, I do have a fear that Alabama is going to absolutely like murder Cincinnati. So I am taking, and I could be wrong, but I am going to take Alabama. And again, without knowing too much, so don't even take my picks into consideration. I just could see an Alabama-Georgia rematch happening. So I'm going to
agree. All good things. As long as Alabama's there, that's all I care about. So very, very good.
That would be a bit, speaking of upsets, I think that would be a very big upset. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, don't ruin my New Year's Eve. Well, that's the goal. So it's at 3:30 on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
I stay in on New Year's Eve. It's not my thing. I just like to eat a lot of food and chill out. So that is what I'll be doing. If Alabama loses, I will go to bed and not watch the ball drop. I will refuse to be a human being. Just wake me up when 2022 is here. If Alabama wins, obviously we will be partying on my couch all night long. We being me and my sister, send us bottles of champagne. We will be partying. And then at 7 o'clock, I will see who our opponent is. So... That'll be those are my New Year's Eve plans.
I like it. All right. Well, let's get into our big stories of the week in the world of housewives. And as far as juicy goes, this is on a level of 1 to 10. This is the juiciest. So Caitlin actually sent this to me when it like broke on Instagram. Was it on Christmas?
I think it was on Christmas. And I was like literally ignoring my entire family.
I was a couple of Aperol spritzes deep when you sent it to me. And I was like, oh shit.
Because it's a headline that you go and hunt for like news on. So you can't just get like the headline. Like you need to know. So like I said, when I was ignoring my family, I was like, what's going on? Like,
yeah, it was big. So we're talking about, and it's funny how we continue to talk about this person, even though they have not been on there. You know, they're not a part of Housewives anymore. But this is Real Housewives of Orange County alumni, Megan King Edmonds. Now, we last talked about her like 2 months ago when she abruptly got married and shocked everybody. And now we are learning that after 2 months of marriage that things are ending. On Monday, that's when Megan actually took to her Instagram to confirm the news that her and her husband, Cuff Owens, would be splitting after just 2 months of marriage. I do have the quote from her that she put on her Instagram. She said, "I've been asked by many outlets and individuals to comment on the state of my marriage. I am rattled. This situation is profoundly devastating. This is obviously not what I imagined when I made my vows. And I'm shocked and saddened by the way things turned out." So I guess he ended it. That's how it sounds. "I'm moving forward with my children as we privately process our pain and begin to let go of shattered dreams. At the time, I ask for your grave and gentle kindness as I navigate this labyrinth of grief with my family." So Megan and Cuff is an LA-based attorney, and also we've mentioned this before, the son of Joe Biden's sister. They were married in a small family wedding at his parents' home in Pennsylvania in October. We did mention it on our show. Megan only went public with their relationship 2 weeks before they actually got married, and the two had met on a dating app. Megan has also previously been married before to another lawyer, Brad McDill, from 2007 to 2011. And then, of course, to Jim Edmonds from 2014 to 2019. And her divorce to Jim was only finalized in May, and they share 3 young children together, which most of us know. The thing about her and Jim and their divorce finalizing in May, I can say that we know that she has had, and you can include Cuff in this, that she's had 3 different boyfriends since then.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's had 3 husbands now, all failed marriages. But in the time of her, divorce being finalized, and I know she was dating that guy Christian, I think before that was finalized. So let's call it in the last, I don't know, year and a half, she's had like 3 boyfriends. So
right.
She was Christian for a decently long time, it felt like. And then they split. And then she took to Instagram about this guy that she was had this whole long post on Instagram.
Yeah.
This is probably like a month or 2.
That's like literally who I thought she got married
This
to.
was like a month or 2 before she got married to Cuff. She took to Instagram and this whole long post about how she had always been friends with this guy, and they kind of tiptoed around ever being together, and they finally did it, and she was so happy. And then poof, like the next thing we heard about that relationship is we didn't hear about it ending. We just heard that she went off and married this guy named Cuff.
That's why I thought it was the same person.
So I think when we reported that her and Cuff got married, I do think that they'd only been together like a month or 2. And she was just like, when you know, you know. And it was like, oh, all right.
But when you know, maybe you take a trip together, you move in together, you don't get married.
So here's the thing. In the last 24 hours, and honestly, this, like, I read about this after we were like writing our notes for tonight's show. There are kind of like more things coming out from a source saying that the main reason that they ended is because of distance. So I forget where she lives now.
It's still in California.
No, I think she lives out of California now. Might be like Utah. I want to say like Utah or Colorado. You got to look it up. But he lives, I know they're not in the same state, and he is an LA-based attorney. He lives in California. And so the quote from the source was like, this was never truly practical to begin with. They had thought that the distance was fine and they would travel as much as they humanly possibly needed to. If you're merging families and you're trying to like be a married couple and like start a life together and incorporate your families, like the quote said that like Megan can't just take her kids and move to California. Like, okay, but like, aren't these things that you should have thought about before you went off and got married? Like, and to me, somebody who this was your 3rd marriage and you have 3 young kids, they're like babies. Like you would think you would be more rational. And what I said to Caitlin when I heard this news was, I'm bothered by like how she seems to take marriage as such a casual thing. Like, what was the need to run off,
get married,
immediately get married? I just don't understand that. I really don't. Especially if you knew that you were going to have this distance between you. Try to see first as boyfriend and girlfriend, even if you just want to get engaged and then like hold off on the marriage thing. Figure out the logistics of how that's going to look and how that's going to work to merge your lives together before you go and do this.
I think even like living with someone is like you got to like take that step. But like they're not even just like moving in, just the 2 of them. Like they'd be moving in with like they have children and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely
it screams irresponsible to me as a mother. Yeah. It screams irresponsible. And then as a grown-ass adult, as a grown woman, it screams you treat marriage too casually. You don't take it seriously enough.
Right. I agree. It's like friggin' what's her name? Why am I blanking on
Danielle?
It's literally Danielle Staub, but I don't want to compare Megan to Danielle Staub. I actually like Megan, but I agree. It's very
put together. Honestly.
There has to be something else. So like I don't know. I keep reading into it. Like there has to be something like I need to know. Like what happened.
If she's not in therapy, she needs to go get a goddamn really good therapist.
I agree. I definitely agree there. But listen, I'm convinced that there's maybe just something that we don't know because she hasn't deleted the pictures on her Instagram of the wedding or that one other one she posted. And usually what we see, and this is just from what I've known, the trends and things like that, is that when someone, if the guy usually ends it, the girl is the first to rip everything off of her Instagram and be like,
this also
nope.
was all at like Christmas time. So she might have just wanted to like burrow away with her family.
Well, no, she's on social media. I've been watching every day. She's on there. She is.
I don't know.
She is. So
I don't know. I don't know. She's a mystery to me at this point. I don't know what's wrong with this girl, but something's wrong.
This story and this much calls for my second
the second pour.
The second vessel of this wine. So that's about the size of the pour that it gives you guys, just so you see. It's a tasting. It's a tasting. Yeah. So it's not like a holiday pour like Katie and I do. So this one is a white. It is from Navarra, Spain. Green tea and fennel flavors on top of the crisp nectarine and other stone fruits.
That honestly is super intriguing and very yummy. Tell us.
I'm not a fennel person, so it's very interesting. I think it needs to be a little bit colder. It does.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's got a little bit of a, I wouldn't say it's carbonated, but it definitely has a little bit of a kick to it.
Interesting.
Okay. I'm getting like a very sweet aftertaste from it. So not like too sweet, like a floral taste almost on what I'm getting. So it's not bad. Maybe it'll get a little better throughout the show.
That's crazy, but I haven't heard like red wine labels where they're like hints of fennel.
Yeah, they're very interesting descriptions here. So not bad. Alrighty, well, that story definitely needed some more wine. So let's get into another story that maybe will want to make you guys drink more wine. To cheers, maybe? Apparently, Dolores Catania has a new boyfriend. So obviously, she was with what was his name? David. We didn't like him. Oh, David.
Nobody liked him. No one liked him.
David sucked. So after calling it quits this summer with David, boyfriend of 4 years, that no one liked. Real Housewives of New Jersey star Dolores Catania has moved on with new boyfriend Paul Connell. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Connell. Dolores met Paul through a mutual friend, and they recently enjoyed a vacation in St. Martin together. That's great. I saw the pictures. I'd love to go to St. Martin. So let's all go. Paul is a New York-based electrician, and according to an insider, the pair are pretty much obsessed with each other and are practically glued at the hip. So the duo has also bonded over their shared passion for philanthropy, and like Dolores, Paul does a lot to give back through various charitable efforts. So I love to see that. We know how much Dolores gives back. We see it on probably every season of Real Housewives of New Jersey.
I think the quote is more interesting in the fact that, like, I can't picture Dolores being obsessed with a guy. I mean, that
is true. Yeah.
It's really different for her.
Maybe it's just like,
I think obviously the huge main issue with David was that
he wasn't around.
He was never around. He was never part of her social life. Anytime that she would go to an event where you could bring a date, like she was riding solo, like, and so I think if she's got a new guy now who like she can actually spend legitimate time with, she's eating it up, and good for her.
And as you should, because we saw how David treated her, or even if it wasn't, and maybe it wasn't negative, like so negative, like to her face. And like, I mean, some comments he had weren't great, but just not being there, that hurts. Like that is like not a great sign for things. So listen, like you had just said, if she's finally with someone who's actually present to the day, and with her for all the right reasons, and they share interests, good. So be with him and enjoy your time. So I love to see that. So we're not going to see the new relationship on this upcoming season. Oh, that kills us the most. They did wrap before the two started dating, but we are going to see the fallout of her and David. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I'm very interested in seeing that, because I swear to God, Kate, like we are always have all the dirty little details, and week by week we give you all the big stories, and somehow
this was swept under the rug.
This one was just swept under the rug, and nobody heard.
No one's talking about it. No one's talking.
I missed it. How did I miss it? How did you
I didn't see anything. I did not see anything. I had no idea.
I'm ready to actually take a glimpse of this because
and you know what? I hope she puts him in his fucking place, to be honest. So
she deserves the world. Dolores is definitely one of our favorites. She
really does.
Great gal.
She really does.
All right. Well, let's get into our game of the night. It is football related. And I think this is because last week after we left you, actually, we had an early show last week. And when we finished, the Pro Bowl rosters were officially announced on NFL Network. And so, of course, we want to talk about it. So we're going to take a look at the selections and kind of answer some questions here. We're going to break it down by specific positions. Now, obviously, we cannot do all of the positions because that's just crazy and too much time. But for the following Pro Bowl picks, we're going to look at each position and say, if we had to pick one player that was selected for that position to join your franchise, join the New York Giants, who would we choose to have on our favorite team? Also, we are going to name one player from the NFC and one player from the NFC for each position that wasn't selected. That's going to be our honorable mention. Could have made it, should have made it, could have been considered our honorable mention. So let's kick it off with quarterbacks. On the AFC side of the ball, we had selected the Chargers, Justin Herbert, Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes, and Baltimore's Lamar Jackson. On the NFC side of the ball, we had Green Bay's Aaron Rodgers, Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay's Tom Brady, and Arizona's Kyler Murray.
I feel like I've never heard someone say Tampa Bay.
Oh, but really? I've heard it before.
Oh, really? I feel like I haven't. I know it's definitely out there. Like I know it's out there.
He got traded there. It was like he's going to it's Tampa Bay now. So why don't we first say, out of those 6 guys that were selected for quarterback to the Pro Bowl, if you could have any of those guys, who would you pick for your franchise?
I definitely my biggest disclaimer here is if we're looking at the New York Giants, I'm looking at time. I'm looking at what I can sustainably take onto our team for a decent amount of time. So with that being said, I'm going to look at this list. I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes onto our team. Do I want to deal with his goddamn annoying family every single week? Absolutely not. I know. But I think
about that.
I don't think the Giants as an organization would deal with that bullshit. So something would happen. So, but you think Kansas City, fans and other people are bad, you wouldn't last in New York. But I think talent wise, age wise, it's something that someone I would want to take into our team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up the obvious, and I think that's obviously going to be a common theme with the rest of these selections is if you're looking long-term, if you have some of these guys who are younger and have more longevity, obviously, if this was a one-season thing, you might be like, yeah, give me Tom Brady, give me Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But looking long-term, I feel like to me, it's Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes. And as much as we are both Justin Herbert fans, you can't deny the fact that Patrick Mahomes is a proven winner, proven Super Bowl winner, MVP level status quarterback, one of the best in the league. And he is on the younger side. So I as well went with Patrick Mahomes. Honorable mention. Let's start with the AFC. Who are you going with that didn't make this list?
I'm going with Josh Allen. I think he's obviously had some hiccups this season, so maybe that's why some people neglected to vote him in, or maybe he got less votes. But I think it's still, as we wrap up the season, a bit of a no-brainer there.
Josh Allen is definitely a great pick, somebody I considered, but it feels weird to leave Josh Allen off of my list, but I'm actually going with Cincinnati's Joe Burrow.
And I like it. I like the pick for sure.
He's 6th in passing yards amongst quarterbacks. He has a 105 passer rating, 30 touchdowns. I think the most impressive stat to me, though, 69.9 completion percentage. That's a very high completion percentage, especially for a young quarterback in the NFL. And I definitely think those are Pro Bowl worthy numbers.
Absolutely.
So, NFC, who are you going with?
Listen, as much as it hurts to say, we do, this isn't a Giants podcast, and Katie and I can't be biased. I am going with Dak Prescott. Okay. So I think a lot of people were pretty upset and thought that Matthew Stafford got snubbed. I think he's doing a lot better in Los Angeles, but I'm still on you got to prove it's a little prove it to me a little bit more, but I'm going to pick Dak on this one.
All right. So some of these honorable mention picks for me are just honorable mention picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, okay, if I have to pick an extra guy, I would have picked this. But some of these picks are guys that I really feel like deserve the straight up selection.
I feel like that's, yeah.
Yeah, for me, that was this, because I truly feel that Matthew Stafford did get snubbed.
Yeah.
And I 100% think that Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford could have and should have been selected over specifically Kyler Murray.
I agree.
I understand Arizona's got a hot record. Kyler Murray is a big name, like big, he's got the face, he's very, whatever, popular. But Matthew Stafford, second in touchdown passes right now with 36, fourth in passing yards. He's at the top of the list in all the statistical categories for quarterbacks. No doubt in my mind, he should have been a Pro Bowl selection.
Right.
All right, running backs. AFC, we have the Colts' Jonathan Taylor, Cleveland's Nick Chubb, Cincinnati's Joe Mixon. NFC selected Minnesota's Dalvin Cook, Arizona's James Conner. Clap to that. Well deserved. Great free agency pickup for Arizona. And New Orleans' Alvin Kamara. Kate, if you could have any one of these guys for your franchise, who are you picking?
You just did a nice little applause to him. I want James Conner on my team. Look at the transition that he made from Pittsburgh over to Arizona. Maybe he needed a little bit more of a push. Maybe he needed to know that he was RB1. Maybe he needed a little bit better coaching. But I loved the transition. I thought he was fine in Pittsburgh. I thought he could have been better. And I think it was a night and day look for him. And he has completely carried Arizona over the past couple of weeks and truly is a bright spot on that team. And I would love to have a running back like him on the New York Giants.
Got James Conner super late in my fantasy draft. He's been on my team all year long.
I had him all season. I love him.
And that was, of course, the fact that like even Arizona wasn't necessarily viewing him as like he is our RB1. It was more like running back by committee. Chase Edmonds got injured. Now it's James Conner's turn to go. And he just excelled. And I think he's going to be interesting next year fantasy wise, because he is a guy who can run the ball, but he's a hell of a receiver.
He is.
So he's going to be very interesting to see where he falls in the fantasy drafts next year. I'm going with Jonathan Taylor. I already spoke on him. Young guy, obviously only his sophomore season, and he just lit the league on fire. So hands down, easy for me, Jonathan Taylor. Honorable mention on the AFC side of the ball. Who did you go with?
Going back to Pittsburgh, a phenomenal rookie season from Mr. Najee Harris. Loved him in Alabama, and I think he's doing great things there, proving that he could actually be their RB1.
I'm with you, girl. I got Najee Harris. The rookie is 5th in rushing yards right now, 984, 6 rushing touchdowns, along with 422 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Another guy who can run the ball. He can catch the ball. Great Swiss Army knife for the Pittsburgh.
He's a name that I miss rooting for. I will definitely say that.
And people are always super critical, by the way, of like running backs being taken in the first round. But this proved to be a much needed position for Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And Najee came in and he filled that hole and he did a phenomenal job. And he's a great running back.
A much needed, like, firm position, because you go back to the Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell days where you had a solid running back and wide receiver where they were your big guys. And then you tried to put in Juju to fill in the gaps. You tried to put in Connor to fill in the gaps, and they never fully got to that one position. So now he's actually grabbing that and taking it as his own. So that's something that Pittsburgh has needed for a very long time. Yep.
NFC side of the ball.
I actually had a bit of a tie here. I couldn't pick between the two, but another division that hurts me to say. But I am going to go with my tie. My tie is Antonio Gibson and Leonard Fournette.
Ooh, I actually thought you were going to go with my selection when you were talking about the division. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who is normally the workhorse, and this was kind of the first season where he had to share his carries. But
did you pick Saquon Barkley?
He's sharing his carries, and he's still putting up the numbers he is. I don't like it, but I'm giving it to Dallas's Ezekiel Elliott. He is 7th in rushing yards.
He did get snubbed. I will say that. It hurts.
Thing. He's 7th in rushing yards right now with 899. But if you want to just like break this down over like you're selecting however many guys for the AFC and how many for the NFC, he has the second most rushing yards for running backs in the NFC. Plus he's got 10 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, 12 total. I feel as though that deserved a spot on the NFC side. All right, wide receiver. This is big. There's so many good wide receivers in the league, and we get 4 selections on the AFC and 4 on the NFC. So AFC, we have Kansas City's Tyreek Hill, Cincinnati's Jamar Chase, Buffalo's Stephon Diggs, and the Chargers' Keenan Allen. NFC, we had Rams' Cooper Kupp, Green Bay's Devontae Adams, Minnesota's Justin Jefferson, and San Fran's Deebo Samuel.
Let's just talk about a list of wide receivers. Woo! I think that while we're going to talk about honorable mention, this was the group of people that I think that the Pro Bowl got 100 million% correct. These are the guys. Like people can go out and they can say people were snubbed. They can cry that maybe their guy didn't make the list. To me, this is 100%. There is no error here. There is no error in this group of guys. Out of these people, though, Cooper Kupp is a monster, and he is a scary wide receiver, and especially showing off this season that he can catch anything that you throw to him. I would love to have Cooper Kupp on my team.
Cooper Kupp has always been good, but by no means, and you can look at like your fantasy drafts, like when he was taken, like he has always been good, but he's never been what he did this year with Matthew Stafford. I mean, it's insane.
Right.
So, and maybe you can argue, well, this guy's always had him as his quarterback, but I'm going with Green Bay's Devontae Adams. He's just done it consistently longer. He's always like top 3 in receiving yards, usually number 1 or number 2. And touchdown, he's always at the top of the list. So I had to give it to him.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. These are the guys. So these honorable mentions to me are truly honorable mentions. Who do you have in the AFC?
Well, I'm going to take it back to Alabama. I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle for Miami. So I really like the connection between him and Tua. I love that the connection's back for them. And let's talk about a team that lost 7 games in a row, but now is on a 7-game winning streak. And clearly there are connections being made on the entire team. Waddle has been that consistency throughout the entire season so far, though. So I made a noise. So my water's been off since 2:00, everyone. So it did because I just heard my toilet go. So that's why I literally just looked over to my left. Cheers to that, I know. Cheers to my water coming back on. That means the heat comes back on too, people. So.
Amen.
Woo. But yeah, so definitely going to go with Jalen Waddle here.
A lot of young names on this list, which is always awesome. Always good for the NFL. I am going back to Pittsburgh. Okay. I am going with Deontay Johnson.
I think it's a good pick. Yep.
92 catches on the year, which is insane. 1,079 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. These are monster numbers for, like you said, Juju's always he was supposed to be the guy. And like Deontay Johnson just quietly stepping up to the plate for them. So the mixture of him and Najee Harris, those are 2 bright spots for a team that needs bright spots. So
my toilet sounds like it's literally exploding.
I can't hear it. So
I know. I'm just
okay. NFC side of the ball. Who'd you go with?
I went with Chris Godwin. So there's a lot going on in Tampa, a lot of good things, obviously. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, like if he was selected, he is injured now, but I did go with Chris Godwin as well. He's 4th in receptions with 98, 1,100 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. He has been Tom Brady's favorite target, and they're definitely going. I still can't hear your toilet.
I need to check on my toilet.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we're going to tight ends. There are 2 selections from the AFC, 2 from the NFC. So on the AFC side of the ball, and I like that there's only 2 for each because we always argue that there's not a lot of good tight ends. So I want to see guys that really deserve to be there make the Pro Bowl. She's coming back.
I know why it was making a lot of noise because when your water shuts off, you cannot flush the toilet. Duh, obviously I know, but I made the mistake of flushing it earlier. It's been 6 hours since my water has been off. I forgot, whatever. How many times with the amount of water I drink in a day, you're always in the bathroom. So I just forgot. So that means I took the whole thing out. What is it called?
Okay.
So it was filling back up with water.
Okay.
So all the plumbers out there, please Godspeed to me. I'm just trying to figure out.
All right, well, we're going with tight ends here. I haven't announced who those picks are yet.
Okay.
AFC side of the ball, we have Baltimore's Mark Andrews and Kansas City's Travis Kelce. For the NFC, we have San Fran's George Kittle and the rookie, Atlanta Falcons' Kyle Pitts. Kate, who are you?
Good for him making the freaking list.
Yeah, you know what? I know I've been bitching because he was my fantasy tight end all year long. I drafted him. And I've been bitching because I felt like Atlanta hasn't been using him. Right. And he quietly has like a ton of yards. It just hasn't felt that way, fans.
Yeah. He's got like no touchdowns, though. He's got like 2 or 3 touchdowns, I think.
He is quietly like racking up the yards.
Yeah.
So he does deserve this spot. But who are you taking for your franchise out of these guys? Because they're all good options, honestly.
They are. I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. He is the epitome of a tight end. He's the tight end that I think the New York Giants need. They need the big, massive guy that's got hands that can block. Like that's what I want in a tight end. So, and I just think he's got a great attitude on the field. He's a good leader. So I would like someone in Travis Kelce.
So I think that the most well-rounded and true form tight end is George Kittle.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the best blocker out of the group. I think he's the best, like staying true to the position of tight end. That's George Kittle. However, I'm going with Travis Kelce. I mean, I'm thinking about a team like the New York Giants,
right?
And we use a guy like Travis Kelce. He might like kind of be a non-traditional tight end where he seems more like a wide receiver because he certainly puts up wide receiver type numbers and does wide receiver type things. But like we can use that. So I would
big old boy on the field. That's what I'll take
it. So all right, honorable mentions. Again, I was saying while you left, not too many great tight ends in the league. So this is interesting. But who are you taking for the AFC?
I'm going to go with CJ Azuma. Over in Cincinnati. So again, like their offense is clearly clicking. And he's just one of the parts that's moving along there. So, and I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name incorrectly. So we all know the thing.
I went with Miami's Mike Gesicki.
That's a good one. I almost picked him too. Yeah.
He's 4th in receptions for tight ends. He's got 65 catches on the year, 707 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Been a bright spot for Miami. I think obviously we've talked about this before when we were guests on the other podcast about how like Jalen Waddle is the guy, but that second target in Miami, that's Mike Gesicki. So he's a young tight end doing good things, doing big things for that team. Mm-hmm. NFC, who do you got?
Listen, call it a cop-out because he's the next big name on the list, but I'm not going to, not call out, Gronk here. I think he was one of the names in the I just gotta call it. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is, in my opinion. So it's one of those positions where there's like 3 people that are good. Clearly, I'm just calling it out here. He's never lost the connection with Tom Brady. That connection is still wildly there. So I think right now, this week, he's in the top 6 of players in regards to his stats. So I'm just saying, I think so. If you're looking at it from a fantasy perspective, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, not looking at a fantasy perspective, to me, this was a choice between 2 NFC East guys, Philly's Dallas Goedert and Dallas's Dalton Schultz. And I did to Dallas's Dalton Schultz. He's 6th in receiving yards for tight ends, 733 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 3rd in reception for tight ends, 69 catches on the year. So to me, statistically, Dalton Schultz deserves this pick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, defensive side of the ball, D ends, AFC, Cleveland's Myles Garrett, Las Vegas's Max Crosby, Cincinnati's Trey Hendrickson, and NFC we have San Fran's Nick Bosa, Carolina's Brian Burns, and New Orleans' Cam Jordan. Who do you got?
Listen, someone that could potentially be comeback player of the year, but also could be defensive player of the year. I want Nick Bosa on my team, not just because I really like him and he's attractive, but I want him on my team because he's a very talented player. I knew he was going to come back this season strong, and as it is clearly showing. So definitely Nick Bosa. And I know Myles Garrett is good, but I don't want him on my team. I don't like him.
Absolutely love Nick Bosa, would love to have him, but his whole thing in college was that he was injury prone, and then he gets to the NFL, and then he gets injured, and it just doesn't sit well with me. It makes me nervous. I'm going with Carolina's Brian Burns. He's in his third year in the NFL, and he's just like been consistent since day one. He racks up the sacks, does what he's supposed to do statistically. This is a kid that I like. AFC, who are you adding as your honorable mention?
So I'm going to go with loss at Vegas is Yannick Njoku. So I just think that, if you read up on a lot of things in regards to the Pro Bowl, a lot of people think that he's up there with Matthew Stafford as the number one snub of this year. But yeah, it's interesting because I think Vegas had a lot of bright spots in the first half of the season. And then obviously post John Gruden and a couple of, things with the team. It's just not looking good right there. But I do think a lot of parts of their defense are a little bit of brighter side of things. So, and listen, the hottest story of last year of where Njoku was going, that was the biggest story. And he finally lands in Las Vegas. I think he landed in a good spot for him. He's doing big things. So a name left off this list here, some people would say is the biggest snub of the Pro Bowl. I don't agree with that part. I'm just saying I've seen it.
I mean, if he's the biggest snub of the Pro Bowl, I actually didn't pick him. I went with Miami's Emmanuel Ogbah. So yeah. This is a team that's been on a win streak. And I think they're on that win streak because of their defense. This guy's got 9 sacks, a forced fumble on the year. He is producing at a very high level for this team right now. And I feel like he was deserving of the spot. NFC side of the ball, who do you got?
Yeah, I gotta say, the whole defensive side of things was a little bit. Well, I would say that for cornerbacks and defensive ends, they did a good job. They didn't do as much of a good job as wide receivers. It was still a little bit of tricky to go into things and see who our honorable mentions were for sure. But I'm going to go with Shaquille Barrett on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, and it's no surprise that Katie and I, or maybe just me, have mentioned people on Tampa Bay to come in as our honorable mention because a team, like we've said before, brought back every single player on their team. So they're only advancing, and they're a good team again this season. So their players are only getting better. So definitely going to go with Shaquille Barrett on this one.
Going with a young guy, and this would make 2 guys for New Orleans then. I'm going with New Orleans Marcus Davenport. 7.5 sacks on the year, 2 forced fumbles. It's not looked like the normal New Orleans Saints team that we used to see. Obviously, Drew Brees is a huge missing piece. But I feel as though those 2 guys, Marcus Davenport, Cam Jordan, they've been the ones producing for this team, and definitely wanted to show him a little love in the honorable mention spot. All right, cornerback, our last defensive position that we're going to take a look at. AFC, we have New England's J.C. Jackson, Miami's Xavier Howard, Cleveland's Denzel Ward, and Indy's Kenny Moore. NFC, we have Dallas's Trayvon Diggs, the Rams' Jalen Ramsey, Philly's Darius Slay, and New Orleans' Marshawn Lattimore. I love those 4 guys in the NFC.
I do too.
Yeah, I'd take any of those guys in a heartbeat, but
absolutely.
Kate, who are you going with on this?
Well, the guy I love is in the NFC, and I've loved him for years, and it kills me that he's doing big things in Dallas. For me, this was a no-brainer. I'm going with Trayvon Diggs. He is a dynamite of a player. I think he is leading the league in interceptions. He catches
he's at 11 now.
Catches every damn ball that comes his way. If I were a quarterback, I'd be
throwing it to him,
shaking in my boots, throwing it that way. I don't even care if he's a million yards away from that player. I ain't throwing it to him. So yeah. I'm going with Trayvon Diggs. Absolutely loved him at Alabama. I hate watching him now in Dallas, but he's still a firecracker and clearly a master in his position, as we can see. So
Trayvon Diggs. He's a rookie. And
I love his son. Both Katie and I both love his son. He's the cutest thing ever.
He's a rookie. He's going to win Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. But he could win Defensive Player of the Year.
He should win both, in my opinion.
Yeah. So easy.
Make it the first time ever.
But a lot of these guys that made it well-deserved, I like a lot of those guys. So, All All right. Honorable mention, AFC. To me, this was one of the snubs. So we'll see if we have the same person.
My NFC is a snub. But I think my AFC, I actually had I had to look for some outside counsel on this one, I will admit. I had to just keep looking and just keep understanding, but I'm going to keep it in the Alabama family. And I'm going to go with Patrick Surtain with the Denver Broncos. So I obviously look at him because I have known him for years. Might not be a player that everyone has their, under a microscope. But I think, again, the Broncos, not the best season and not a lot bright spots there. Even, with scenarios on offense, going back with, quarterbacks, injuries, question marks, things like that. A lot of, bright spots could potentially come out of the defense. So I'm going to go with Patrick Surtain on this one.
Take out Trayvon Diggs in the defensive rookie of the year race, and you've got Patrick Surtain. I think he was one of the biggest snubs for the Pro Bowl. And again, I love how many rookies we're naming right now, rookies, sophomores, so many young guys. Such a great player for Denver. The rookie has 4 interceptions, 52 total tackles, 12 passes defended. Great player. And again, I think if Trayvon Diggs was not in this league right now, or a year younger, still playing college, whatever, this could easily be Patrick Surtain's award to win. So I thought it was a huge snub. NFC side of the ball, who do you got?
So I have AJ Terrell on the Atlanta Falcons. So again, reading up on this and looking into things, a lot of people think this is a huge snub. So just have to, and it's interesting because I think what I liked about a lot of people's coverage of the Pro Bowl this year was it wasn't the same list over and over of this person got snubbed, people crying and doing this stuff. There was logical explanations for every single person that people truly felt should have been in the Pro Bowl. And a lot of people missed it this year. And I was actually particularly surprised, as you can see from Katie and I doing this game tonight. We are listing off names that you could clearly wake up any morning and be like, oh, of course they should make the Pro Bowl. But in these circumstances, they didn't. So AJ Terrell was definitely one that I actually read probably 2 or 3 times. So, and again, a player, maybe I'm looking at Patrick Surtain because I do know him. I understand him. But AJ Terrell's not a guy that I'm watching. But after really looking, understanding it, I could see where people are coming from on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. NFC, I went with Green Bay's Rasul Douglas. Again, as always, I'm a stats girl. 5 interceptions on the year, 1 forced fumble, 53 total tackles, 12 passes defense. Those numbers are right in line with Patrick Surtain. So if I'm making argument for him, I'm going to make an argument for Rasul Douglas, both having great years for their respective teams. And then finally, this is always fun. Let's round it out with kickers.
Is it fun?
I think so. I think it's fun. AFC, of course, we have Baltimore's Justin Tucker. And then on the NFC, we have the Rams' Matt Gay. So if you're going to pick one of those, Kate, who are you going to pick?
Justin Tucker.
The world should take Justin.
The world should literally always be on Justin Tucker's side.
So I guess it's more interesting to give our honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Who do you have for the AFC?
So I'm going to go with the Patriots' Nick Folk for for the AFC here.
I was very close to picking him. This was a toss-up for me. I went with the other guy. I went with Las Vegas's Daniel Carlson. 5th highest field goal percentage, 32 out of 35. He's got a boot. He's been great for Vegas all year long. Great fantasy-wise. So, yeah. But Nick Folk, phenomenal season. Those were the 2 guys I was choosing between. NFC, who do you got?
I feel like the NFC, we're seeing a lot of field goals attempted within the actual division as I'm looking at a lot of the kickers here. So I was looking at, the highest percentages here, where they stood amongst the rest. So I'm going to go with Greg Zuerlein for the Cowboys. So he's got a very high field goal percentage. He's also racked up a decent amount of points because obviously the Cowboys have been pulling in the points against their components lately. So, excuse me, not components, opponents lately. So,
Greg the Leg.
Greg the leg.
So I went with a guy who didn't get as much buzz as he did last year. And that's just because I think he plays on a not so great team. And he's only had 25 attempts at field goals compared to like Daniel Carlson. I have, he went 32 out of 35. He's attempted 35. This guy's only attempted 25, but he's made 23. And he is one of the best kickers, maybe the best behind Justin Tucker. I'm going with Atlanta's young Wake.
Oh, he's amazing. He's a great kicker.
And again, I understand that he just hasn't had as many chances as some of these other kickers. But that being said, he does have the third highest field goal percentage after just two players, Justin Tucker and Matt Gay, the two guys that made the Pro Bowl. So Young Wei is unfortunately on a team that is not scoring as many points, not getting as many field goal opportunities, but I do think he's probably the second best kicker in the league behind Justin Tucker. Great game. Wow. What a Pro Bowl breakdown.
It really was. And then it's good to really pull it back and understand, not just like, again, like, hey, here's great. Here's who made the Pro Bowl. Like, I like when you actually pull back and analyze it, because even when you get to the Pro Bowl, it's not something that people really like watch anymore. You know what I mean? So
it also gives us a chance to give recognition to some of those players that we do feel were snubs with the honorable mention. So
right. And I must say that I do truly think, no bias for the Giants, but I do think that Graham Gano and Xavier McKinney could have found themselves in the Pro Bowl. So not trying to cry and go and, run around screaming. Like, I just truly believe that they actually showed that they could have been in the Pro Bowl. So.
Honestly, if you're looking at things statistically still, like, you can also make arguments for guys like Logan Ryan. You can make arguments for James Bradbury.
Probably more for me. Yeah, Bradbury.
They are still both right in the mix, like statistically at their positions. So it was a tough year for the Giants, all around. We did not have any Pro Bowl selections. Very disappointing. And it is what it is. I think the guys that made it were well deserving, and so be it.
Absolutely. Alrighty, so it is that time of the episode where we get it off our chest. Positive, negative, football, housewives, wine, life, 2022 right around the corner. Katie, what do you have for us?
So very proud of my girl, Caitlin. She, I know she plays in 3 fantasy football leagues. She is in the championship round.
Or just one.
We got a horse in the race for the real football fans of New Jersey. So I'm very excited for her. I hope she wins. But the conclusion of my fantasy football league is over. It was over weeks ago, honestly.
One of my leagues was like that. It was over a while ago.
As you guys know or don't know, I don't know. This was my very first year playing fantasy football. I had a great time, despite the fact that I had 12 teams in my league, and I finished in 12th place. So
it happens to the best.
It was rough, but honestly, I feel as though it almost like is as expected, because I think I'm such a statistical person that like it's like there's reality football and then there's fantasy football. And I think what I learned in this first year is like those are two different, like completely different worlds. You have to look at things a lot differently in fantasy football. And I do feel as though, what's really funny, I felt as though I drafted a good team. And I believe we did it through Yahoo. So after we drafted, I think I was ranked like the 4th best draft out of 12 teams. It goes to show you that anything can happen in the world of fantasy football. So just for example, my first round pick was Aaron Jones. Not the year that Kate.
I had him too.
Not the year. I mean, he definitely shared a lot more carries with AJ Dillon than I expected. He obviously was banged up a bit, but he just was not used at a first round value. Like, it was terrible. Second round, I had Steph Diggs. Great year, but he didn't put up the numbers that he did last year. Third round, Chris Carson, running back for the Seattle Seahawks. IR, out, injured. Barely got to play him at all this year. Fourth round, I decided to roll the dice early. I decided to snag a good tight end, Kyle Pitts. As I said, I think on paper, his stats look nice, but week to week fantasy-wise,
it wasn't good.
Not great, to be honest with you. I got to tell you. And Kate, I think you had him on one of your teams.
I did, yep.
Yeah. So she knows what I'm talking about.
My worst out of the three I had.
And then my fifth round, which is the last one I'll mention, is I took my quarterback in the fifth round and I went with Dak Prescott. And I remember in our draft, the guy who picked after me was like, God damn it, Katie. Like, I was going to pick him right now. He ended up picking Aaron Rodgers, way better fantasy quarterback this year. And I'm like, I guess you're lucky that I picked Dak. Dak did not put up the fit. I want to say that's the other thing, like
when you needed
reality versus fantasy reality wise. I think Dak had a great season. Kate, you just had him as your honorable mention for the Pro Bowl. Fantasy wise, when the guy throws for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's a great game. But fantasy wise, it's not. So it just wasn't a good year for me. But I'm looking forward to next year. Honestly, like I'm keeping a very positive outlook about it. I learned a lot and anything can happen.
Yeah.
I'm very ready for next year. And I did tell Kay, I said, I'm lucky I'm not in one of those leagues where if you finish in last place, you've got to go get like an ugly tattoo. You've got to go this and that. Thank God, because I would be in trouble right now. So that's my get on my chest. At least on the positive, I'm thankful for that.
I must say though, like I've been playing fantasy for probably like 6 years now, maybe. Wow. Was a very unique year. You know, and this is the most that I've scrambled with my lineups week after week, even dropping players, like making bold decisions to drop someone like
COVID obviously a huge thing.
So I must say, while I'm very thankful, and the team that I'm in the playoffs with is it's a 2 quarterback league. So you have to play 2 quarterbacks every week, which is annoying as shit. It's an interesting league, but I'm excited that I'm in there. But I learned a lot with my other 2 teams that it was a scramble every week to. And like you, I was ranked for all 3 like leagues, like really good teams. Like you did a really good job, and it was a lot this season.
Just doesn't shake out that way, right?
It doesn't. So I must say, I know it was your first year playing, but it was a wild season across the board for sure. But it'll get better, I promise.
I hope so.
So honestly, we are 2 days away from New Year's Eve, 3 days away from the new year. I cannot believe it that we are turning the corner to 2022. 2021 literally went by like this. I hope the years start slowing down because I'm getting older and it freaks me out. So let's just slow it down a little bit more. Just wanted to give a shout out to all of you guys. As always, Katie and I appreciate all of your support, all of your love, all of your engagement with us. We simply could not do this without you guys. We literally do this on our day-to-day basis, talk about football and the housewives, but we come on and do this for you. And we are so happy that we've reached so many milestones in 2021 across social media. Our fan base has, grown tremendously. These live shows, we get a ton of views now, which I think we average on like 500 views per episode now. So we are just really cranking it up. Our subscribers have gone up on the podcast. We're 4 years.
We had a ton of really amazing guests.
Oh, and that too.
In 2021. And we also got to be guests on a lot of great podcasts as well. I think that was like a huge first for us.
Yeah, we got to meet a lot of you guys that we interact with on a daily basis. That to us, it means the world. We're building a community out there. We're building a football community. We're building a housewives community. So when we get to meet you guys, it's just so much. It's we're talking about reality on the show, but when we actually get to meet you, it is reality. So we're so happy about that. Hopefully we get to meet a ton more of you in 2022. We're coming up on 200 episodes. So hopefully that'll be a big meet and greet for a lot of people.
I will say this. The last regular season game for the Giants this year is against Washington. It is at home. Last I checked a week ago, tickets were like $25. If the weather, this is all going to be weather depending. If it is not brutally cold.
What is the
it's like date? January 9th. I think. If the weather is not brutally cold, I do plan on attending the game.
Well, I will be in the city on the 8th to see a Broadway show. So maybe I can scramble my booty there to MetLife on the 9th, but I can't guarantee it. But I would love to go to one more game as well. Maybe we should get our butts to Chicago this Sunday.
Oh, God. That would be brutally cold. No, thank you.
That weather is going to be really cold. But yes, obviously, we did so much, despite another weird year in the world. Katie and I were able to accomplish so much with this show, and we appreciate your guys' support. Hit 4 years going strong on this. I cannot believe it. So here's to 4 times a billion more years doing the real
4 more years. 4 more.
We will keep coming to you guys, obviously, as you keep listening. And again, we keep growing. So we really appreciate it. I am looking forward to 2022, and we are going to do way bigger things than we did this past year. So thank you guys, as always. It is a pleasure, and we're just truly grateful for everything that we do for you guys and for you guys supporting us.
Absolutely. All right. Well, things you don't want to miss this week. A lot of fun things. Real Housewives of Orange County, that is on tonight at 9 o'clock. We're getting you just in time if you are watching us live. Real Housewives of Atlanta on Sunday at 8. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City on Sunday at 9. NFL Week 17. Again, no Thursday night football. But Sunday night football, we've got a division game, Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers. And then again, another division game on Monday night football, the Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. As Kate mentioned a couple times throughout the show, college football, number 1 Alabama versus number 4 Cincinnati on Friday at 3:30 in New Year's Eve. Also on New Year's Eve, these are the semifinal games. Number 2 Michigan versus number 3 Georgia. That is going to be after at 7:30. Thank you guys so much. Honestly, have an amazing New Year's Eve. Be very safe, very careful, stay healthy. We're wishing everybody well, and we'll see you next week in 2022.
See you guys in 2022.
See you later, baby. Cheers.
So weird. Yes, cheers. We will see you guys next year.